chat.
Do you want to collect the names for the
Either
world
way.
games?
Yes, I can do that.
Okay, thank you so much. I will be sharing the pages then.
Yeah, and I'll do all the marketing and stuff.
I think it was selfie.
Hi, everybody.
Hello,
We're back from our break, and we brought with us some 3D print masters because we're going to talk about 3D printing today and its prevalence and how useful it is and how, even though it's 3D printed, it's still a lot of work. It's not easier.
As someone who makes her whole living out of resin molding and casting things, who has also done some 3D printing, it is the same amount of work to go from beginning to end. And I hate when people are like, oh, 3D printing's like the easy way out. I'm like, bitch, have you tried it? No, it is not.
Good. That's really
definitely not the easy way out.
Trying to get the filament to pump right sometimes can be a nightmare.
Yeah. I mean, it started out perfect, Amber. That was the perfect segue into this. That 3D printing, you're not going to pull something off your printer, which I have a couple printers going now, and go straight to a con. There's no way.
Yeah.
I mean, you're still looking at the finishing time, the sanding, the resin. We'll go over, Ben and I and everybody will go over some of the finishing products, but it's not, I mean, anybody who's familiar with Appleseed, that's a Briareos helmet that I just printed. I've just started doing the filling work. There's probably another 50 to 60 hours just of sanding and filling and stuff. So as a really good friend of mine and mentor, and the person that I'm going to blame for getting me involved in 3D printing from Hero Creations, Yasu, he calls it a force multiplier. So, well, you're printing, like right now, I've got 2 printers going with other projects. I can be working on the Briareos helmet. Well, that's printing. So, and for people like y'all that do massive costumes and are just gods to me, because it's like y'all put all these costumes out, like it's a way to make things quicker, or it helps you all out, because again, you can be working on one item and have another one printing, and then go to that and then work on one, so you can create several different costumes or pieces to the costume. So exactly. It's just, that was the perfect segue into this, Amber. That was awesome. That was awesome.
It's always so weird to me when people are like, they have resin props and they're like, oh, I got this from so-and-so prop maker, but you have a 3D print. And I'm always like, that's so weird to me, because it's the same, like you're still getting a product from somebody else and then finishing it to yours. So there's this weird elitism to, oh, mine is cast.
And the thing is most people now, and then we'll get into introductions, but a lot of people, a lot of patterns and a lot of things are now, they're commercial. So you can buy commercial patterns for sewing. So does that mean that I'm cheating for sewing? Commercial patterns for foam making, does that mean I'm cheating for foam making? No, you're still putting it all together and developing the attachments, and you're still having to paint it, sand and then fill and then sand and then prime and paint. So there's still lots of work involved with any sort of costume. So whether or not you commission someone to do the base print, just do a base print for you, or whether you model it and print it yourself, it's still a considerable amount of work. And I would think that either way, you're still a maker.
It goes to the root word of your 3D print is your foundation. It's not the house yet. You haven't built the house.
It's your material.
Yeah.
Your foundation is just what you're going to build upon. And whatever you do from there and then on is 110% your own work, your own blood, sweat, and tears. It just as much work goes into details and lighting and electronics and fitting and straps, you name it. It doesn't just end with the print, not one bit. The print is actually the shortest part of the time because you don't touch it.
Yep. So before we go into talking about even more detail on 3D printing, let's go ahead and do introductions. So who would like to go first? Because we've got an array of people here. Do we want to start with our guests? Yeah. Oh, Rob. Look, it's Rob.
Me? Okay. All right. My name's Rob. I've been nicknamed Papa Fallout. I'm a huge Fallout fan, as probably could have guessed. Been printing probably for 5 years or so. I got into it because I thought it was cool. Oh, kitty cat. I mean, I thought the technology was cool, and I started doing stuff for our cosplay group, the New Arizona Republic, which is a Fallout group here in Arizona, and it just blew up and took off, and now I'm doing hopefully full sets of armor now, 3D printed. So, and it just and it just went from there. I still do foam. I still do other stuff. I like to work in multiple materials. But again, I'm a lazy cosplayer. So 3D printing is perfect. Or at least so I thought. I still got to finish the product. So
you're like, this will be easy. Oh no, there's so much more to do.
No, my problem is I make stuff for people and go, here, you finish it because I don't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
Sure, it's yours. I don't want to deal with it. I'll print all day long for y'all. Now when it comes to my stuff, like Zilla armor, backplate, that's gonna kill me because I hate work. I hate working on stuff, but yeah, we'll get into all that. Anyways, I'll turn it over to my partner in crime.
Hi, I'm Ben with NovaRune Cosplay. I got started with 3D printing just a. Oh.
Sorry.
Amazing.
All right.
That side is even more amazing
guys.
the sequence that it went in.
Sorry, we've been planning this for a while.
I got into 3D printing about 8 months ago. It's been a crash course in learning. Not only did I get into it for the fact of the matter that I wanted to have extreme accuracy with my cosplays, but on top of that, I wanted reliability and survivability at my highest and top form. I really enjoyed the foam crafting, but when it came to 3D printing, I can stack all of my 3D prints on top of each other and I don't have to worry about any deformation. But yeah, it's been a crash course. I've been having a lot of fun. I've started punching out a lot of prints. Even did a couple of crash courses learning how to operate Mesh Mixer, Blender, Idea Maker. Idea Maker's the slicer that I use. But yeah, it's been fun. I've started producing some products for friends and family, and it's just been an absolute adrenaline rush. I've been loving it ever since I got it.
Well, thank you for the introductions. And then for the top three, you know most of us. I'm Sam from ThermoCosplay. Been cosplaying since 2014. And NovaRune down here is my brother and Papa Fallout. I consider my adopted father. My Fallout Wasteland father. And then you got my, cosplay sisters over here. Oh gosh, I can't point today.
Yeah, Ron, I know I'm having the.
I'm gonna skip Jess because Jess is doing stuff.
Jess is busy,
I'm
so
Amber,
we're going to Amber.
and I'm a prop maker here in Phoenix, and I mostly specialize in, like I was saying, resin making as far as props, but I've dabbled in 3D printing, so I've got a pretty good idea, though not. I like being able to make things with to fix things with my hands, and 3D modeling drives me insane. So I have the utmost respect for people who look at the computer and make the printer work, because to me that's the part that drives me insane. Is the printer's like, nah, I don't want to today, and I'm like, I will throw you out a window. So done it, not great at it. I like being able to smash things, but
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll get into that conversation.
So,
out of windows, yeah.
hi guys, it's Jinx Cosplay. Sorry, I always do like the sharing and marketing at the very beginning of the episodes. That's why I always look like I'm not paying attention, but I am. I promise.
He's working hard.
Yeah, although I am the least knowledgeable on 3D printing, so you'll probably see me do more of the collecting of the names. So again, guys, we are running a giveaway, and I'm not wearing my glasses, so that's why I'm like.
You're not wearing your glasses.
Just post CosTalk Live to enter the one of
Put your
two.
glasses on.
It's not accurate. It's not cosplay accurate. Okay.
My contact is so I can see.
Now I'm hipster Chun-Li. So in the chat, just type hashtag CosTalk Live to enter to win one of 2 Cyberpunk 3D printed guns here. So are we doing 2 winners then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Also, my name is Jinx Cosplay. Jessica, I've been cosplaying since 2001. And I thought today was video game cosplay, but I'm happy to listen to 3D cosplay. And yeah, okay, guys, have fun. Let's learn. Let's talk.
All right, so
Always.
most people, when they think of 3D printing, they think of like those little printers you put on a desk and you give it filament and then it goes on its own and they think it does its own magic. But like Amber sort of prefaced, there's a lot more involved. I went to school for animation, so I know what 3D modeling is like. I know that after you 3D model, then you have to unwrap your model. You have to check that all the joins are correct. Then you have to map it again. And for 3D printing, it's more because after you've modeled it, you then have to think about its supports. Because you can't just print it and have it fall over. You have to think of where supports are going to be and how you can trim them and take them off. So for that, I'm just going to point down here to NovaRune, and why don't you kind of walk us through like when you're 3D modeling, like what it's like from modeling to print.
So what I'll do is I'll just go down the very ladder of the basics to the different kinds of printers. You know, you have FFF printers, or they're called fused filament fabrication, or also known as FDM printers, which is fused deposition modeling. Those are the ones that take the whole roll of the filament, and it takes the filament down through the machine, heats it at the hot end, and puts it layer by layer. Oh, there we go. Perfect.
Ah, perfect.
There we go. And fused deposition modeling can produce some of the strongest, most durable prototyping prints, just because of the range of products you can use. Whereas you go down and you go to SLA printers, which is stereolithography apparatus, or SL printers. Those are the resin printers. And what those do is those use a fine beam of light, it's polarized, and it photo cures the resin layer by layer, lifts it up, wipes the bottom, drops it back down, and continues the process. Now, SLA printers may not have the strength of FDM. However, the FDM printers pale in comparison to the detail you can receive with an SLA printer. And that's just because of, well, stereolithography, you can get finer details cured at finer points. Then you have SLM printers. These ones are really cool. I want one someday, but I don't have the money for it. These SLM printers are selective laser melting, and you can produce metallic prints with real metals. Fun fact, SLA printers, so the stereolithography apparatus resin printers, those were the world's first 3D printer, and they were conceived in the 80s. And, you know, that's just about the basics about most of the printers you can get. There are a couple of different variants, but beyond that, they all operate mostly the same way. When it comes down to it, you have everything from PLA, PLA Plus, PETG, which is really strong and fairly heat resistant. Then you have TPU, which is really fun because TPU is a flexible filament. And that one's really cool, say, if you want to make a piece of armor, but you might be at a really busy con, you're worried about it getting bent or cracked or whatnot. Well, TPU is fun because it bounces. You can throw it up in the air, it'll hit the ground, bounce, and there won't be anything wrong with it. But then beyond that, it does come down, so when it's a 3D modeling, I am in no form, shape, or matter a complete 100% 3D modeler. I probably pretty much take the longest back way around, but it's because I'm using free programs, so I'm currently learning Blender, and Blender is an actual real 3D building environment. One of my favorite programs to use is Mesh Mixer. Mesh Mixer is fantastic because you can modify existing prints in several different ways. Mesh Mixer was originally created for SLA printers, but it works fantastic for FDM as well. Then the slicer that I use is Idea Maker's slicer. There's Prusa, which Rob is the master of.
Kira. I use Kira primarily.
There we go. That's right. And so with that, there are several different form factors that each one of the programs have too. So it's mainly all about what you're comfortable with and what makes better sense to you while learning. I learned everything that I learned off of watching tutorials on YouTube, several hours of just sitting there going,
Oh yeah.
okay, pause, and then try it out and go, well, that didn't work. Hold on, I got to go backwards and check it out. And after about 8 months of learning, I've been able to start producing full pieces of armor, my own designs, all that fun stuff. And it's starting to get exciting because now I'll be able to start getting into the forefront of producing these things for individuals. Personal sizing, one of the big things that a lot of people don't realize when you get a model online, it might look really nice, but it's only about this big, where you need it to be this big. And that can be a really hard thing to go in and say, okay, I need to figure out how to measure this within the program and measure it to the individual. And that is one of the more complicated points. I've managed to do a really good job about fitting now. I can pretty much measure someone's entire body and produce a piece of armor that fits. But on to Rob.
Oh
Yeah.
No, I'm just, because Ben did that for me. He took the model that I got, and this is actually the butt plate for my Godzilla armor. And it was too small, so he sized it up, and he actually cut it up because there's no way. I have a big printer. I have an S5, which is like 500 by 500, but it still would not have fit on it. So he cut it up for me, and then I was able to print it out. Sizing for cosplay, Ben brings up, is a huge issue because most of the files you get, like armor files and helmet files, are made by one person and may not fit your head. So especially helmets. So you have to be real careful when you print a helmet that it's actually going to fit your head. And there's different programs, like the Mando, the one I did for Sam. Because this one was printed right off of a file that I got off of another maker. His name is Daniel Lillygreen, and he goes by Lilykill, and he does phenomenal files, but this one is just a little bit too small for my head. It fits, and it looks good, but the rest of the armor, my head's going to be this big, and the rest of the armor is going to be this big. So you have to like size it out, which is what I did with this one, which is the XO1 helmet, which fits quite a bit better. Whoops, sorry.
Yeah, and I mean, both NovaRune and Papa Follow, aka Rob, have printed things for me too, and they've had to size things down. So like for the helmet, they had to size it down because my head is not the normal adult size. The normal adult size, I think, is 22 inches. I think I'm at 20 and a half. And so I have a smaller head. And then they also size down gauntlets because I have these itty bitty child size hands and wrist. And despite the rest of me being like 5'9" and a half and curvy, my arms and my head are just small. So.
And that's again one of the things you need to be aware of, because there's multiple places you can get files from. Places like Thingiverse or My Mini Factory, or you can buy stuff off
Etsy. Yeah.
You can either buy the files and print it yourself, or you can either download them, print them yourself, or you can buy them from people. Like I belong to Lilykill's Patreon, and I download his files, but I know his files are really accurate and really good. So
yeah.
One thing to be aware of, as in life, buyer beware, do your research. I've downloaded quite a few files that halfway into a 3-day print, where I've got 48 hours into a print, it fails because the modeler didn't take that extra step to actually check his own files. So mind you, the waste and the time, I mean, I'm out, 2.5 days or a day and a half of a print time on a helmet, and the whole top is just torn off. So
yeah. And I mean, like I've commissioned, like you've mentioned, Lily Puts Good. I've done Inox Studios. They helped
They're
print
one of my favorites. They're great.
they helped print they do a lot of custom commissions, and they resize, because I have this thing where like I wanted to do the armor from the Mandalorian, but the armor is just a little bit too big for me, and so I wanted it to be much more close fitting. I'm not very busty, and so I don't have to worry about like accommodating that area. And they custom print to like the 38 inches that I wanted, and I was able to put padding in it, and now I'm about to add snaps, and it fits perfectly.
And this is a great opportunity to kind of point out all the different places that you can get involved in 3D printing. You can get involved from the beginning by modeling your own 3D models, printing, finishing, everything like that. You can buy pre-made models if the modeling part is not interesting for you, and then just print and finish.
Or resize as needed to there as
or,
well. Yeah.
Or resize. If you don't want to even handle the printing, you can just buy a raw kit or even a fully finished piece. So there are different junctions that you can kind of get involved with 3D printing, depending on your comfort level and your experience. Like I love to buy models just straight from Cinex Studios because they're so good. I hate 3D modeling.
Awesome.
And we've got a printer, so like I don't mind fiddling with that every so often. But like I don't like the 3D modeling. I've done it. It's frustrating for me. I don't like it. So I like to come in, just buy models or commission somebody to create a model for me and then go from there. So we're talking about 3D printing with two people who do it from kind of the whole get-go, but there is opportunities for you to take advantage of it.
All around. Well, even Rob mentioned finishing it. A lot of people, they want a finished product. So if a printer's like, no, I print it and that's all I do, like I model and I print, then you can hire or commission someone to finish it for you, to do the sanding and the filling and the painting and the padding, because you have to pad it. Like your own oils will destroy plastic, so you really need to seal the inside of it very well.
Oh, this took 200 hours to produce on a 3D printer. This is my Advanced Mark 1 Power Armor helmet that I use for my Exo 1 Power Armor when I go to cosplays. Just printing alone was about 200 hours. And then moving forward, beyond that, you have to go in and put it in electronics so you can communicate people, so you can have communication back. This has outboard audio sensors that allow me to hear people much better now. I have an onboard voice caster system. When it comes to it, it was a lot of work. My entire costume was about 550 hours worth of work. And it's still a work in progress. I'm still finding more and better things to do to it to make it not only more comfortable, but more screen accurate. And that's just my own personal preference. It's not any real set in stone standpoint or law when it comes to cosplay, because cosplay is about one thing: unleashing your creativity.
It's subjective.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And you can do 3D printing from the beginning or from the end, and you're still a cosplayer. Like if you buy a fully finished prop, you're still a cosplayer. You're putting that cosplay on your body. That is just as valid.
It's just another tool. It's another tool we use to get to our final product. Amber mentioned or brought up an actual about resin casting and stuff. So I was involved in a project a couple years ago with Yasu from Hero Creations and Alan Amos to create a helmet. And this is actually, Yasu did the file, did the modeling, made the helmet. I printed it, and Alan did a cast off of it. So you can use 3D printing to make mother. I'm not sure of the terminology of that whole part, where they use the helmet that Alan put together, or I printed it and then Alan put it together, and then he used that as
master.
It's called a master.
Yeah, the master.
The master to mold off of.
Yeah.
Because like a lot of my masters, and that's better. Honestly, a 3D printed object is a little bit stronger, because I've done mold making, right? And Amber has too. Most of us use like wax-based clays, right? Or we use something that you like mold off of, and then you damage your clay, so you have to resculpt all over again. Whereas if you have a 3D printed object you can keep building off of over and over again, it's kind of awesome.
The only thing
I have
that ever
all
gets
my
in the way with
masters
the
actually.
accuracy
All of them
If
hanging
you,
over there.
Yeah.
If you
I have a
like,
box
an
of
mechanical
masters up
function.
there just kind of hanging out. So like I don't, once I make it once, I then cast up, in the initial cast I keep as a master. But if you have a 3D print, obviously, like you can just keep that. But and this is where we get into which is better, resin or 3D print, and I think it's totally situational. I make resin horns, and I will fight anyone to the death that my resin horns are better than 3D printing horns, in the respect that my horns are lighter and just as durable because I can hollow cast them. Whereas most 3D horns, you print, yeah, and they have structure. But you can get materials like NovaRune was talking about, the flexible filament you were talking about, that I can cast a bucket, and I like my resin cast buckets, but you could print a bucket if you have someone who's prone to dropping them and have that slight flexibility. So
you could throw those as hard as you want against the wall, and most it'll do is scratch the paint.
I always have people who is like, which is better, 3D printing or resin? And I'm like, what are you trying to do? What are you specifically trying to do?
Probably better with fine detail, like really tiny details.
That's what.
But otherwise,
like
they're
hyper
equal.
detail, SLA. If you want strength and durability, FDM.
So as a 3D printer person that really loves it, I agree with Amber that in certain situations, resin is better, resin printed parts, because, well, how long does it take you to make, let's say, a run of
I would think that the quick set resins can set anywhere 15 to 20 minutes at the longest.
So the helmets that I make, whoops, dropped it. So this helmet, it's fine. Yeah,
okay, I was like, no.
Yeah. So this helmet takes me about 30 minutes to cast up.
Okay, where that helmet would take us 100 hours to print, probably.
Yeah.
So you can crank out
150 hours for this one.
Yeah. Yeah.
The Briareus helmet, 300 hours to print.
Yeah, so 3D printing definitely takes longer, but if it's like a custom build, and it's only going to be a one-time stint.
I can't customize this. Every single one looks exactly like this. If you said, can you make it a little bit bigger? I can't make it bigger. It is this size exactly. Like that's it. So
I think that's the benefit. Like resin casting is still really good, but the benefit would be customization when it comes to 3D printing. If it's just like a one-time thing that you're doing.
Yeah, and the only thing you have to worry about is what your patience level is.
Exactly. And that brings up another point is, do you want to use 3D printing to make a full suit of armor that's going to take, like the Godzilla backplate? That's the backplate. There's probably 250 hours of print time in that. I could do that out of foam in an afternoon.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm doing it because I like to work in multimedia. You know, the spiky bits for the back of Godzilla, that's 40 hours of print time.
Yeah.
Now to build that out of a material, I'd probably have 40 hours into that. What would you use to build that out of? You know, you could do it. Plus, this one's going to be lit up.
Well, and that's the thing too with pieces like that where you've got lights and you're gonna have electronics in it. You're very limited to like something like a clear plastic or like a clear Warbler, which unfortunately wouldn't be as durable. Like it would be subject to damage. Where that's going to be a lot more hardy for you to wear.
I mean, there's foam that you can do that are translucent.
The
and
LED foam,
But you know, like Nova was talking about, like foam builds, they just don't have longevity. Like.
You've got a couple of years if you take really good care of it.
If you finished them really well and you take care of them and you store them carefully, you can get a couple of years out. But like even I did an Inquisitor and I did most of it out of Sintra, but I did the boots out of foam. I wore that thing like a dozen times. I had to replace the foam boot pieces 3 times just from like how ratty they started looking. So
messed up. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm kind of biased as far as 3D printing because I love 3D printing. I mean, it's fascinating, and I like doing it. So that doesn't mean I've given up all my other tools that I could use, because like on Godzilla armor, it was going to be head to toe 3D printed parts. I mean, that's a mock-up of the head. Can't really. That's a mock-up of the head. That was the first one I did with the head, and the other one's got the jaw on. It's got the cowl piece, and it's got the spiky bits, and I nicknamed them the spiky bits. But I kind of changed with that, where I want to do a mixed media with it, where I will have foam. I'm going to have chainmail with it. It's not going to be. It's going to be more of like a, what do I call it, Ben? Traditional, like the traditional armor, like you would see in the Middle Ages. So,
yeah, like a traditional 4-in-1.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm a big fan of using all sorts of media in your cosplays. Like when people are like, I only work with foam, I'm like, you are seriously hampering yourself. Like this is there's so many different things that are so useful. Like why would you say I only use this? Like,
I mean,
use everything, use it all.
Yeah,
to go back in time with our group, the Fallout group I belonged to. I got so many people, so many of our members were asking, well, I only use this and I only use this. So I kind of was like, I had the idea that I was going to make a complete set of armor out of trash. And okay, let me rephrase that. Out of found items, not trash. And it was literally trash.
In Star Wars, we just call that greeblies. Like when you take something and use it for something else, we call it greeblies. Like the whisk on the Millennium Falcon, that's a greebly.
Exactly. You know, that's what I did. I mean, which was kind of bad, because it's like, never mention to your friends that you need stuff for your cosplay like that. I had trash bags full of, bottle caps are great knobs and great detail parts. I had a 30-gallon trash bag dropped off on my porch, and also had bottle caps in it. Like this bottle cap.
If you need bottle caps, contact Rob.
Yeah, well, even better, I have a friend who did landscape, like sprinkler systems and stuff. And I said, well, I needed some PVC pieces. I hear all this noise outside of my house. I go out the back door. I can't get out my back door, and I see a truck pull off, and I'm like, what the hell is going on? Around the other side, there was a pile full of PVC pipe.
Oh my god!
That's actually what I made the vault door for our display. Nice. I mean, I couldn't get out of my thing, and there's a note that says, "Have fun. I don't need this stuff." And I'm like, so never mention that you need stuff to your friends. That because you will get married
really quick.
Yeah.
So we're gonna jump back into 3D printing, just because I know we got a little bit, but getting carried away is fine. But we've talked about like from end to end modeling to printing, what kind of filaments you can use, how you can put it together. Now we haven't talked about adhesives, and different filaments, different plastics take well to different adhesives. So let's go through what adhesives does everyone prefer to use.
It's called CA glue. Oops, wait, hold on, right there. From Bob's.
That's my favorite too.
See?
We call it God glue in our house because we use it for everything.
Oh yeah, and with an accelerator. So, and the reason why I use this is that you can get it in like different thicknesses, anything from like runny to, I use like I guess it'd be the mid-range purple, where it's a little bit thicker, to all the way up to stuff that I've used as filler because it gobs out. Yeah. I use that, and sometimes I'll use an epoxy, depending on, like the Godzilla backplate, that's all this. But what I'm going to do to the back is I'm going to do a thin layer of fiberglass on the back, because it's going to be, I'm a big guy, I bump into things, I'm clumsy, and we won't get into that whole conversation. So, but that's normally
quite nice.
Huh?
Our theme song is quite nice. It's just
March
of the Elephants. So
yeah, March of the Elephants. That's exactly it. If you ever get a chance to see us at a con, Ben and I and whoever's in Power Armor, it's more of a controlled fall than a walk. So we don't have a whole lot of, it gets a little sketchy at times, but
Yeah, one of my favorite levels of adhesive, I really enjoy. E6000 is a fantastic adhesive. It is quite stenchified, however, so you definitely want to use it in a well-ventilated space. But something new I've been doing lately, I had the idea of why am I going to use something that might degrade with my own body sweat and oil, as a lot of adhesives can. Whereas I just use the same filament that I use to print it, and I weld it together with a 3D pen.
Yeah.
And it has produced some of the strongest joints I've had. Then another really cool one that Thermo has found recently is that one right there, the UV cured resin full kit. It's an awesome one. Then beyond that, another one of my favorites, and you're going to laugh, but one of the hardest things to do when you're putting together a helmet that comes in pieces, because lots of times people may not be lucky to have a 400 by 400 by 400 printer, where they might have something that's got 8 inches by 7 inches by 9 inches tall. It's going to come in a lot of pieces. So one of the things that's really hard for people is to get them all lined up correctly and then to seal them. So it's kind of funny, but I'll get my hot glue gun out, get it on low heat. I'll line up the pieces and just tack them in small zones to where I can get them perfectly lined up because it's forgiving enough. Then once it's solidified, I can then just bend the part open because of the flexibility of the glue. And then you can run your epoxies all the way in. Then you just put it back to where it was. It'll spring back. And the cool thing is once it's cured, you can peel the hot glue off the back on the inside. You'll never know it was there, and you've got perfect seam.
Yeah.
Finisher tip. I like it.
It's a good one. It helps out a lot.
Yeah, the plastic welding, I think I'm going to jump into that with both feet because after watching Sam's stream, Sam's stream about doing that, I was a little I don't know, leery about it. And then I watched that and I was like, yeah, no, okay, I'm going to buy one. So I actually have one coming, one of the Bondtech ones. I ordered off, Amazon? Yeah, I ordered it off of Amazon. I love the glue, don't get me wrong, but if you can see my table and my keyboard, this is like the third keyboard because I'm kind of work in a smaller space, and I'll be gluing stuff and I'll glue my fingers together, and I've glued 2 keyboards to my table, various things. My floor is a disaster, but hey, stuff we do.
That's one thing why I've moved away from a lot of different adhesives. One, even with me being in a ventilated space and wearing a respirator and gloves, I'm hypersensitive to most adhesives. I start shaking. There's something I can't be around them. And like my skin itself is like, what is this? And so I typically use a lot of non-toxic stuff. And so 3D printing was one of those things, like, how do I keep using non-toxic? What do I need to do? And for foam, I've moved to pretty much CosBond, except for when I have really concave or convex seams. And then for 3D printing, that Bondic non-toxic UV resin has been amazing. So for those of you who might have weird bodies.
I'll have to use that here the last one of the couple of streams back, and that was awesome. It's some fantastic stuff. Very impressive.
Yeah, I mean, it sets in like 3 to 5 seconds.
It was
super fast.
Have you tried, is it sandable afterwards? It is? Okay.
And it's somewhat flexible too.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay. Wonderful.
Yeah, it is really high quality UV resin. Like the little pin itself is like $20, but each little refill is about 10 for this little tube. But the tube, like just a little bit of it goes a long way.
Oh, that's awesome.
So.
How about you, Amber? What, do you have any preference on adhesives?
I mostly use the God glue, and I'm lucky to have just a ton of like various sized clamps and stuff like that because I work with resin already, just clamps and molds and stuff like that. So my go-to is usually it's kind of funny. I duct tape one side, which is kind of like a slightly more ghetto version of your hot glue trick.
Oh, it still works though.
So like I duct taped one side and then used that to glue it together and then just clamped it. And I've lost many a clamp to accidentally gluing it to the prop. So like that's the biggest problem with clamping things. But I love those adjustable clamps that you can kind of like screw to the size that you need. I have so many of those. I love those.
That's awesome.
Yeah, those are super useful. So
well, do you have a suggestion on what you can put like between the clamp and the product to keep it from? Like any silicone? Like what do you think?
You're gonna laugh, but one of the go ahead, Amber.
I mean, for me, I just make sure I'm not clamping or using excess glue, I guess. Because the other thing with using excess glue is then you have to clean it up later. So like the biggest thing for me is just not using excess glue so it doesn't come out. And then I always have a seam, but I finished my 3D props with XTC 3D, which fills in the seam and it disappears. So I don't mind. Yeah, that stuff. I love that stuff.
I need to get some of that stuff.
Having a bit of a seam because it goes away the next step that I do.
I get it from Reynolds up there.
Yeah.
This stuff.
What were you gonna say?
One of the other things going up to what you just asked, Jinx, was one of the things I've noticed if I use a clamp, something that makes it really easy to where you may not lose the clamp. Just go to the store and get yourself a small package of the 3-inch postcards or cardstock, and you're just going to put it in between the pads while you clamp it. And so if it does glue, it glues to the paper peels off, you're done. Whatever's left, you can sand it free.
That's brilliant. It's a lot easier to get rid of paper off of a prop than a plastic clamp foot, for sure.
Yeah, or you can even use wax paper. It's another good one. However, it's a little more fragile, so you could still press through and glue it. That's why the cardstock's a little better, just because it's thicker.
I use like the really thick wax paper. I usually double layer it for like a lot of my thermoplastics that have adhesives built into them already too. So like I have a lot of wax paper. Wax paper is like my best friend.
It's a good tool. It's a very good tool.
I think I actually have one of your rolls to comb an accident. That's random.
This
Sorry,
is entirely
very random.
possible.
Very random.
I literally have rolls of wax paper just in boxes back here because I love and use wax paper and tinfoil so much.
My mom came over and was like, "Oh, you've got wax paper. Are you going to make confections?" And I'm like, "No. No.
I just don't want to get my table dirty."
My table was pre-owned by someone who is real dear to me. Rest in peace, good sir. But he was an airbrush artist, and he made some fantastic art. And I inherited his table, so I'm going to keep it as filthy and beautiful as it's always been. It means a lot to me.
I love my crafting table. It's got stories in layers of resin and paint on it. So
right, you can clear it off and go, "Oh, my first paint spot." You know?
So the one thing with 3D printing that I don't have a lot of experience with is things that are a little bit thinner, like this little headpiece that I have here. I treat it like I do warp, like I'm assuming that it could warp a little bit in our heat. And so like I want to make sure I prime and secure it. So like what do you do to prevent it from experiencing any warping?
Actually, I have something very cool that I discovered. It's popped up all over YouTube over the past couple of months. And Amber, you're going to really like this because this is something you're very familiar with. So I'm going to show you the unfinished piece. So this right here is just as a basic sanding, as you can tell. You can still hear the lines and all that. This is all I have to do to it because I went and my buddy Chris and I decided to try out the photopolymer resin from 3D printers. What you do is you paint it on, and after you paint it on, after sanding, you paint it on and you hit it with the UV lamp and it completely cures it. And
nice.
As you can tell, there's no more bumps. And it looks fantastic.
It's almost like the XTC stuff, but UV accelerated with the UV.
So if you are going to do this, I highly suggest that you make sure you either outside or have a VOC.
Oh heck yeah!
Use your PPE
respirator, and then you want to wear gloves. I don't personally, but that's my choice. I just make sure that my hands are cleaned immediately within 5 minutes of exposure. If you're a more sensitive individual, it can and will burn you. But fantastic.
A little bit about safety, because I think we glossed over it. Ben brought up the different filaments that are available. So you got to be careful with your cosplay, what you're going to make it out of. Like basically, not to get too technical, but you have PLA, which is pretty much what everybody uses across the board. Problem with PLA is it doesn't have a good heat threshold. Out here, when it's 110 degrees, the part will warp rather quickly if you leave it on your dashboard. It's just, you have to make sure you maintain it and be careful. PLA Plus, which I really like to use, is a little bit stronger and has a higher heat threshold, but it's still warp. Like Sam's headband, that's PLA Plus. It has some flexibility. It will last a little bit more in the heat, but you still need to be in the back of your mind, say, hey, I can't leave this on my dashboard because it's going to melt. The stuff that, I guess, let me go to some of the extreme, like the extreme would be ABS plastic. You can print with ABS plastic. Do not do it in your house. It needs a controlled heat environment. And if you've ever burnt anything in your house that's plastic, that's what you're doing. You're melting ABS, and that's plastic.
And it stinks something fierce.
And it stinks, and it will kill you because it's toxic if you do it in your house.
A lot of the resin printers too, like that should be in a ventilated space. Don't do it in a small room next to you. Like that's not.
No,
that's not a good plan.
A good kind of,
just like what we were talking about with the TPU, you can completely squish it and it bounces right back. And
TPU is awesome. I love TPU, but learning to print with it is a huge learning curve.
I'm pretty sure that my sword broke his print bed.
Well, no, they didn't break your print bed. There was something else that broke his print bed. But so if you're gonna get into the 3D printing world, again, like Ben said, do your research, figure out what you want to do.
So when it comes to TPU, like Rob was saying, TPU is very stretchy. You can grab that filament and it's like a rubber band. And if you have a Bowden's tube, like what Rob's machines are, it forces the TPU from the back down the Bowden's tube and into the head. Mm-hmm. And what happens is because it's so stretchy, it tends to bind up in there, and it's really hard for Bowden tube to pump it. I have a direct drive unit which was made like specifically for kind of like TPU and stuff, to where it actually draws it in at the extrusion head. Mm-hmm. So there's no tube, no nothing. It pulls it from the top down right into the head. Yeah. And that's There's not, and I think the best of all the worlds, other than say TPU, because TPU is just phenomenal for its uses. It's cool. It's very problematic though, as far as getting it to print, which is that PETG with PETG has a high threshold. Like your soda bottles and stuff in your cars, plastic, that's basically PETG is what that's printed out of. So it's kind of the best of both worlds. It's a little, once you get your machine set up for PETG, you're fine. Getting there, that's an issue. And you want to make sure you're set up for PETG. My machine's print bed was not, and it actually peeled glass from itself. It actually ripped glass off of my print bed. Yeah. I was very happy that my print bed didn't shatter, but it peeled glass like tape. It was pretty impressive. I wasn't upset. I was actually kind of in shock.
I mean, like I said, mine is that's PLA Plus. I'm printing the whole Godzilla out of PLA Plus because I'm going to prep it right and probably do the resin cure. I'll do some more bracing on the pieces with fiberglass, like a thin layer of fiberglass on the inside. It's just do your research, figure out what you want to do, and then go from there with the materials if you want to do it.
So from the opposite end, why don't we, and sorry, Sam, if I'm kind of jumping the gun here, why don't we talk about a little bit about what people should look for when they're purchasing prints and what they should ask? Because I've seen so many horror stories about people who end up with PLA prints that have giant lines that they're never going to finish because the layers were set too high, et cetera, et cetera. So what would you guys, and I know some things too, but what would you guys say for people who want to buy a resin print? What are the questions or the things that they should look for to make sure they're getting a resin print that won't make their, make them hate 3D modeling?
So I would refer to you when it comes to resin printing for one bit of the printing world I have not experienced yet. When it comes to filament printing, one of the big things you want to ask is, what is the layer height?
Yeah.
What is the product you're using? And what are the dimensions of the product that I'm buying? So that way you can make sure you didn't just buy a teacup-sized helmet, that you actually bought a real-sized helmet. And then with that, you'll know whether or not that helmet's going to fit or not. And then if you do know that or you don't know that, you can take it to someone who might know. Like, for me, example, I can take them, I can put them into Mesh Mixer, and I can modify just about any 3D model I need to do what we need. Like Rob has a perfect example. Ask him about his Burarius helmet from Appleseed. His helmet is a fantastic helmet. However, it would need to be scaled 3 to 4 times larger than the size of his own head because of the internals that it had. So what I had to do is I had to go in and turn it into one solid block again and hollow it out. And that took quite a long time. I don't have a super powerful rig at home, so it was kind of painful to watch it render.
Well, that's one of the things too. Like when I'm purchasing, like I got some experience with 3D modeling. I haven't done it in years, but I kind of know what to look for when I'm purchasing. Like when I purchased the sword for Fuho Oji, I specifically looked at the dimensions they had listed, but then I looked at the file size because the file size is an indicator whether or not you're going to get something that's high quality or going to be really bad. Like if you have a file size that's 20 megabytes and it's supposed to be a 6-foot sword, I'm iffy on that. That seems, and it's not a compressed. That's just the size of the file. That's weird.
Well, I mean, if you think of it this way,
to kind of butt in here really quickly to clarify, just to kind of clarify, there are 2 ways that you can buy 3D stuff. You can buy the 3D model to print it yourself, or you can buy 3D printed kits. So what Sam was pointing out is something to look at the model level. You wouldn't ask them about material or layers at that point. That's a question for the kits, the printed pieces.
My biggest suggestion is find out who the modeler is, or not modeler, but who's printing the piece. Just go through and look at the comments.
Yeah, the community will tell you everything.
They don't have a whole lot of, and I'll use a perfect example. There's the Fallout 10mm pistol. There are probably 25 to 30 people that offer that kit in pieces, okay?
Yeah.
I have seen some ones that are just garbage.
Yeah.
Because the standard, whenever you order, and this is kind of what I found out, is the standard is everybody prints at 0.2 layer height. Okay. Now, the reason why is it's quick, and they can put out more parts. They can put out more stuff. And they'll do there's a whole gamut of things like infill, how thick the wall is. My suggestion is, and I'm glad you brought this up, Amber, is ask this person, okay? And if you don't know what layer height is or wall thickness, go to YouTube. Go and look it up, because I have a friend that bought one of those 10mm pistols from a person that I told him not to do it. He got the pistol, started putting it together, and actually smashed the piece, because that one Ben has is in several different pieces, right? And
this one was a full kit that you gave me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. And
this is my first assembled kit.
Yeah. Now, if you look at the one Bo-Katan pistols that I gave you, or that you have, Amber, that is actually what they call 4 walls with a 15. I think I either did a 15 or 20% infill. So you can drop that, and and it won't. And I don't, because I don't choose to. Yeah, I don't choose to do that because I can punch out all these parts, sell them for really cheap, and get a bad rep, but I don't choose to do that.
Yeah. I think looking at price too, because if you have somebody who's selling 3D kits like this for like $15, I would run away because like that's, I mean, how long, Rob, how long did it take you to print this?
That's kind of funny because I broke my printer and those were test pieces. That's about a 26 hour print.
Yeah. So if someone's charging $15 for something that should take 26 hours for a high quality print, which is what I have, like there's a disconnect there. And a lot of times if you're getting a 3D print for like $15, what you're getting is something that's going to snap on you or is not going to line up, or it has giant lines that you're never going to get rid of. So like,
with my printer, I decided to try my hand at doing a full-size print in one go, and it actually turned out pretty dang well.
Yeah.
And if you were to get something like this is a 20% infill with a 4-layer shell. Something like this, you could charge someone probably about $45 would be a very, very good price for something like this, because first off, it's very strong, it's solid, it has no break points. And as you can tell, the detail is pretty nice.
Yeah. And that's a good thing to ask too, is when you're getting a kit, how many pieces is it going to be on? Because obviously a single piece is a lot less work than if you get something that's 20 pieces. And the more pieces you have, the more likely you are to have a piece that doesn't line up.
And then you'll have to file it.
And you're like,
And that's a huge issue with somebody that owns more than one printer.
Yeah.
I have 6 printers at the moment. And each printer is temperamental. I can print parts. That's why I was very not surprised, but I was glad, because the one pistol that you have, the one that was in 2 pieces, Amber, that was printed on 2 different printers.
Yeah, it lined up perfectly. Like,
which is, I mean, I've had issues with parts where I'll have like 3 printers going, but I'll have to make sure the parts all fit, because these printers get, I don't even want to get in that conversation, because it's like, it's the same printer, same model, I'm using the same settings, but yet there's just a little bit of deviation in the material. And a good 3D printer will either have like standardized all of their machines and know how to get the same print, or just print something on the same machine to get that consistency. Exactly. I would suggest, if you can, and if it's a very intricate part, use the same machine, because I've not ruined a lot of parts, but I've had a lot of parts where I've had to do extra work to get them sorted out.
Yeah. And also, like, asking about a kit if it is raw or finished. If it's raw, you're going to get like a lot of the parts that Rob and Nova have shown us, where the 3D print lines are visible. And then for finishing work,
that's what a raw one would be like in a mess.
And Amber's right. Watch your layer height. Like I said, everybody does 0.2. There's ways to get around that. Like, I print at 0.2 layer height, but I do a thicker wall and a heavier infill, and it will make it get smoother. It'll smooth it out quite a bit.
So I just started this print right when we started the entire stream here, and I'll have this ready for you when you come here, Rob.
Real quick, we've kind of done a lot of talking. I'm going to say hi to Carrie, because hello, Carrie, and Ben. Carrie says Senpai noticed me. So, if you do have questions, we are coming near the end of the stream, so please go ahead and post those, and then we're actually going to do the giveaway too.
Okay.
And so
I'm going to pull a Papa theme. Ben, you need to.
Yeah.
Reveal.
I have a very
reveal what?
thing.
Oh, show me my sword!
This is the big reveal.
Oh.
And now here's the.
Oh wow! Oh, that's
cool.
cool.
It gets better.
What
It gets way better. This is what you guys can do with 3D printing.
And when you start doing 3D modeling and you start learning how, you can create specific joints for stability. And,
Yeah, for sure. Oh, nice. Yay. Oh, wow. It's beautiful. I'm in love.
Yay!
Oh, that's
I really-
awesome.
I'm so happy.
I love props that come apart. I don't know. I love them.
Oh yeah.
I can put it in my suitcase.
Yes.
And
Nice.
so there
I was this character for so long and I couldn't, and so thank you. Yay.
That is
so pretty.
gorgeous.
that's just the cool part, that I created
job.
just these simple tabs in the 3D program and created the recesses for them.
Awesome.
And then with the steel core and everything, she's able to break it completely apart, and it's able to go up into a small package like this.
Nice. Okay, now you need to make my sword.
Oh no.
That's brilliant. That's so
My
good.
cat woke up. Sorry.
And you also have two different tips on that one. One's very heavy, so if you want to rest it on the blade, tip on the ground to take pictures, and then a show tip for whenever you're holding on to it, doing a fighting pose.
Nice. Awesome.
That's
Oh, kitty cameos now.
No,
right.
no.
All right, guys. So we've got our entries for the contest. Are you guys ready to spin that? All right, hold on a second. Let me get the screen up. Here we go. Oh wait, application window. Here we go. Dun, dun, dun. All right, you ready, guys?
Woo! Let's do
Dun,
it.
dun, dun. So we're going. First winner is. Well, oh, Vaughn, he went with us last time. All right, and we have one more kit to give away. Are you ready? Oh wait, actually, let's remove him from the list so he doesn't get it again. There we go.
Bye, Chris.
Oh, nice. All right, congratulations, Mike Aguilar.
Oh, no, Mike ain't getting one.
You want me to spin again? All right.
No,
So we'll be
Mike's-
contacting you guys for your prizes. Congratulations.
Okay, we'll get him out.
Yay.
Yay! All right, so we covered a lot. I know we covered a lot. So if you do have questions, please message our page. Let us know. We can send you information. And then Chris and Mike, you guys get a kit from Rob here. So we'll please message our page. Let us know that you won, and we'll arrange delivery. And let's go ahead and wrap up. Rob, where can people reach you?
Through ThermoCosplay, or I have my own personal page, which is Robert Webb. Just look for the guy with the power armor on the thing. You can send me messages there. I don't really do which I guess I should probably start, the whole cosplayer thing.
I will
but,
totally make you a Papa Fallout page.
Yeah.
well, I guess it will be happening, but in the meantime, you can get a hold of me through
Papa.
Yeah, at least for like a what do you call it? A way to contact you. You know, you don't need to necessarily update it all, but yeah, that'd be good.
Well, when I got into this, I never thought it would go here, but so.
Awesome. And Ben?
I have my page, NovaRune Cosplay on Facebook. I also have NovaRune Cosplay on Instagram. Feel free to send me a message if you have any questions. Sadly, I'm not doing any commissions just because I've only got one printer, and I am still learning. So until I've mastered my craft, I will continue to enjoy this craft in my cave. But soon I will have a fleet, probably within the next 2 years.
Oh my god, you guys are
Party
hilarious.
Party
I
shot!
love that.
Well, Ron, I got a
All right.
message for you.
Yeah.
All right. And Amber.
I'm sorry, there's a fly and my cats are going crazy, and I'm just like, I'm afraid that they're going to knock my camera over. I'm Amber Brite on amberbrite.com, or am I amberbriteprops.com? I can't remember.
I think you're amberbrite.com.
Okay.
Okay.
Amberbrite.com, yeah.
It's either Amber or Amber Brite Props. I forget. We moved just from one to the other. But I'm on all social medias, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok. And if I disappear, I'm sorry. The cats are like, they're determined to catch this fly.
Okay, so you are amberbriteprops.com.
Okay, Amber Brite Props. Yes.
I gotta find your speech. Okay, so guys, we are CosTalk Live. We stream on 3 platforms. That's Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube. Please, if you can, follow us on all 3 if you are a fan. Share us that with people that you think might enjoy our content. And we do stream every Sunday at 12 p.m. Pacific Daylight or Mountain Standard. So whichever one is easier for you to follow. We have different topics every week, different guests, and we always love to hear from you guys if you have any suggestions of what we should cover. I am Jinx from Jinx Cosplay. I have a website, jinxcosplay.com, and on social media, I am at the Jinx Cosplay, Okay, Sam?
And I am Sam from ThermoCosplay. You just go to thermocosplay.com and you'll find everything. And next week for CosTalk Live, we are going to be covering Shonen Ai costumes, aka the group cosplay anime. Like if you know Shonen manga or anime, it's like there's lots of people. it's the family anime, you know.
I'm totally thinking of, well, okay, I wasn't thinking of family when I thought of Fushigi Yugi, but okay, yeah.
Well, okay, maybe not.
There's
that,
lots of shonen in that one,
know.
but okay.
You got
All
like
right.
BNHA and Naruto.
Yeah, right.
So, all right, we'll let you guys go. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you to our guests, NovaRune and Rob.
Yep, thank you, and
Bye,
have a great day, everybody. Bye.